Greetings once again, pirates on the high seas. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with another chapter of One Piece, where previously, despite having a previous conversation with Dragon back during his revolutionary days about why he seems to spy on a particular boy in the Goa Kingdom that Dragon heavily implied was his son, Kuma did still go to see Luffy, be it whether to confirm that this boy seemed like Dragon, or maybe just to reminisce a bit. It's hard to say. Regardless, we saw Kuma continue to do government work, sending multitudes of letters to Bonnie. Unfortunately, unknown to him and Bonnie, they were being intercepted by the CP8 agent Alpha, posing at the church as a nurse looking after Bonnie's health. But Connie, Queen Dowager of the Sorbet Kingdom, knows something is wrong here and tells Bonnie and the people to keep her powers a secret. As Bonnie's 10th birthday finally arrives, Bonnie falls into a depression, questioning why her father hasn't sent her any letters despite saying that he'd write. On top of that, despite her having been cured supposedly by Vegapunk, Alpha still insists that Bonnie not go anywhere or do anything. However, one of the other CP8 agents who gets drunk in the nearby town lets it slip that Bonnie is already cured, confirming Connie's suspicion that Alpha is no nurse but a government agent sent to watch over Bonnie. And so Connie and the townspeople concoct a plan. Bonnie uses her abilities to disguise herself as Connie, something she'll do repeatedly in the future. And Bonnie walks under the sunlight for the first time in a long time. And Bonnie makes her way to what would be her future pirate ship and her future crew, including Goyo Goyo and his men, who are said to be tough fishermen of the sea, who will take Bonnie out and help her find her father. But as they set off, Alpha has realized the truth and rushes them down, ready to use force because of the attempted escape. Knowing that her and her friends' lives are in jeopardy, Bonnie rushes towards Alpha, and remembering what her father said about the powers of Nika, a rubbery body, and a power to do as you please, Bonnie activates Distorted Future, a Nika-like future, and she uses the powers of Gear Third, knocking Alpha out and setting out to sea, becoming an infamous pirate in no time. But unfortunately, we know this story doesn't have a happy ending, because we know that the next time Bonnie ever lays eyes on her father again, he has already become a heartless pacifista, with Bonnie crying tears at Saboti. So what leads to this? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, One Piece chapter 1102. Kuma's life. And you have a reader request. Bonnie eating hot dog after hot dog being painstakingly prepared by ravenous wolves by Toshika Zu. So the hot dogs are supposed to be for everyone and she's just scarfing down on them. Also, who drinks milk with hot dogs? Is that really a thing? Ew. Alright, on to the sadness. And so we see the Bonnie pirates raiding a nearby town. Goyo Goyo calls out, "This is it, Bonnie. Kumachi's gotta be on this island." Bonnie tells him, "Don't call me that. Call me Captain." He says, fine, Captain. But watch out. The Navy's also on this." But Bonnie says, "Listen up, Swabbies. Disembark. We're the dreaded Bonnie pirate." They're just indulging this child. We see them facing off against the Marines, with the Marines saying, "There's a fleet-wide order for their arrest. They've been leaving a trail of injured seniors and children in their wake." Ha! Only scum would do such a thing. Only for Bonnie to turn the Marines into seniors and children and beat them up. Much to the confusion of the Marines who go, "What?" Even destroying their weapons in the process too. Yeah, their weapons crumble to nothing. But as the Bonnie pirates race through the streets, calling out, I guess they asked somebody, saying, "A huge man." Sure, he was just on the outskirts of town. And we see Kuma watching from a nearby rooftop as he thinks to himself, "I'm sorry, Bonnie. I can't meet with you. Why did she have to become a pirate? Don't try to track me down." It's the same thing with Jenny, isn't it? He could have just gone and seen her. Something. But I guess he assumed that it would have made somewhat bad situation, even worse for her. Back on the Queen Jewelry Marguerite, is that the name of the shit? Regardless, back on board, Bonnie throws a tantrum saying, why wasn't he there? Goyo Goyo tells her, look, we're all pirates now, so let's take our time searching, Captain. I always did wonder why Goyo Goyo was so quick to call her Captain Bonnie. Like, he insisted on calling her Captain Bonnie. Like, it's because Bonnie insisted on it. And these men just accommodating a little child. Bonnie happily chows down on some meat, saying, in that case, I want to look for Nika too. That way, when we find Daddy, he'll be so excited when I tell him we saw Nika back at that island. Aww. And comes the narration. Meanwhile, in the East Blue, after defeating Arlong and his crew of fishman pirates, the name Straw Hat Luffy becomes known to the public at large. And then we see Monkey D. Luffy, Straw Hat Luffy, with a 30 million berry bounty. As Luffy cheers, woohoo, we're wanted, dead or alive. Cue Luffy's character song, Wanted. Wanted. It's been a while since I've actually listened to that one, actually. We actually get to see some of the reactions of some of the other people. So people always question Sabo reading the paper and seeing Ace and Luffy's faces and never, like, lining up the dots. Like, yeah, apparently he has read the paper multiple times and it just never hit. It was literally the shock, the innate shock of Ace's death that helped to trigger his memory. That kinda sucks. Imagine having seen the faces of people you were so close to so many times. But that is how amnesia works, isn't it? You see the faces of people you were so close to at some point, and it never clicks, and it takes a big shock to trigger it back. But we see with the Revolutionary Army, Sabo questioning, Rogue Town? Why go there? Dragon tells him, well, who oversees that area? Sabo says, Captain Smoker. We see Smoker looking at Luffy's wanted poster, which you even see that at the beginning of at the very end of the One Piece live action season 1. We then see Ace showing off the wanted poster to Jinbei, with Ace saying, Jinbei, do you know whose little brother this is? And Jinbei freaks out saying, he defeated Arlong's crew? This boy? With Ace saying, the answer is, mine. He's my brother. It's like, my brother beat your friend, my brother beat your friend. Just rubbing it in his face. And I think Kuma's looking at both Luffy and Bonnie's bounty posters, as he just smiles at them saying, what a strange twist of fate, Dragon. Both of our children are pirates. And we see Bonnie cheering with her men saying, these are the ironclad laws of piratey behavior. Steal whatever you want from bad guys. Steal! Don't help other people unless they need it. Don't help! So another situation of is like, we beat up people we just don't like, but we don't go out of our way to hurt anybody. Which sounds about right, because, I mean, think about it. You never see Bonnie taking out her aggression out on anyone but the Marie. And yet, she stepped in to try to help Zoro. Being like, well, also because Zoro was about, like, Bonnie had more sense than Zoro as a 10-year-old. Although, funny enough, One Piece actually does have a history of the Straw Hats teaming up with little kids, especially when it comes to filler stuff. You know, like movies, especially little girls. Like little girls between the ages of like 8 to 12. And I think it was inspired by, what was it? Rika? The little girl back on, with the Morgans and stuff, where Kobe and Helmeppo became Marines and stuff. But as everybody on board Bonnie's ship is partying and drinking, I have to assume she's drinking juice. Goyo Goyo says, yeah, why not? Pretty sure that's how you apply lipstick. That's why she wears her lipstick like a child. Although that doesn't explain Big Mom. It's the way an old lady would apply lipstick. And since they're probably so used to being around older people, that's why Bonnie applies her lipstick that way. Bonnie says, yes, I'm all grown up. This is here on my cheek so Daddy can recognize it. It's me. All that's left is to get famous. Then he'll definitely know. And we see her signature lipstick and eye jewelry. So did she actually get a piercing, or is it like some kind of clip-on, or is it like a sticker? Because it's always shown as an actual like ring under her eye. We then move over to Egghead. in the new world, where Kuma is walking with Vegapunk and gazing upon all the pacifista before they're unleashed. And Kuma just looks at him saying, I find this eerie. Like, yeah, I can't blame you. It's just like, okay, this is weird. Like, this is weird. Vegapunk taps one of the glasses for the pacifista, saying, I'm not surprised. They're proceeding well, just like your argumentation. Anyway, did you hear that story the other day about the boy who declared war on the world government? What? And Vegapunk thinks, he's Dragon's son? Oh, they're whispering to each other, probably worried about people listening in. Kuma whispers, I might as well tell you now. You'll see all my memories eventually. Through some trick of fate, is a man who challenges the government with the power of rubber, almost like Nika, the figure I admire so much. Vegapunk says, indeed. It's funny. I think everybody was expecting Kuma to have this massive reaction to the revelation. It's just like, he's just like Nika. Oh my god, I worship him. It's like, no, he's just like, isn't that weird? Like, isn't that something? It's more that Luffy became a bit of a curiosity to Kuma. Like, how much like Nika is he? Because I feel like maybe he was a little bit kind of like, okay, don't get your hopes up that this is something bigger than it is. Because given the life Kuma has, and Kuma is a very reserved person. Of course he wouldn't overly gush over like, oh, he's my hero. Like, no. Like, let me see just how much like Nika this boy is. And so we cut to Thriller Bark in the Grand Line after the defeat of Gecko Moria, where Kuma confronts the Straw Hat crew with a tired Luffy. As Kuma says, orders are orders. I am tasked with killing your entire crew, but I will spare all of you in exchange for the head of Straw Hat Luffy. The government will be satisfied with that. And all of the Straw Hats shout, never! And Kuma says, what a shame. Ursa shock and just takes out everyone in that moment. But we see, a bit of an inconsistency. Zoro had sliced through Kuma's shoulder and revealed some of his, mechanical parts. But you don't see that in the panel where Zoro's kneeling to Kuma, saying, Luffy is the man who will become the king of pirates. And Kuma tells him, if you are truly taking his place, then you must accept his agony. And Kuma expels the pain from Luffy's body, and he thinks, even I might pass out from this one. It's like, I might pass out from that one. The thing that almost killed Zoro is just like, I might pass out from this. Like, this is a pretty intense one. Cut to afterwards with Kuma leaving, saying to himself, you have exceptional friends. He's your son after all. Dragon. Yeah, the ability to inspire people, to have people who are committed. That as we've seen through Kuma, that is a very dragon-like quality. We then cut to near the Subodi archipelago. That's probably when Bonnie was already there, but Kuma didn't want to make landfall. He receives a communication from the government saying it's a mandatory summons of the 7 warlords. Refusing will cost you your title, and Kuma says, don't be dramatic. What's this about? The Marine tells him there is to be a public execution of a bannerman of the new era, Porcas D. Ace, and this means one thing is certain. There will be war with the Whitebeard pirate. Kuma thinks to himself, a war with Whitebeard? He tells them, I will be there by the day of the execution. I mean, with his ability, of course he will. We then cut to inside Subodi, when we first met Bonnie, with her just chowing down, yelling out, aren't my seconds here yet? I'm gonna run out of food. More pizza! She was probably in a bad mood because she had spent so much time looking and still couldn't find Kuma. Or he still wasn't there. And then you see his big ass peeking inside the restaurant. Oh my god. Like, little did we know, there Kuma was there, his big ass just peeking inside the window watching, with Goya Goya telling her, Captain, if you make too much noise, the Navy will come. And Kuma looking in and smiling and freaking out, the people sitting by the window he's looking through. Kuma thinks to himself, I guess this is farewell. Just look at what a rugged pirate you've become, Bonnie. And he sees her happily chowing down on pizza. Suddenly, he hears a commotion with people running out of the human auction house, yelling, The pirates attacked the celestial dragon. A battleship is coming from Navy headquarters. Kuma's startled and thinks, the human shop? He then teleports onto the roof, peering in, thinking, who is it? What did they do to the celestial dragons? It's a taboo of the highest order. We're close to Navy HQ. It's suicide to attack one here. And then he's startled as he looks in and thinks, them again. The Straw Hat crew. He sees the knocked out St. Charlos, Sanji and Zoro battle ready, Hachi on the ground bleeding and crying, and Luffy looking pissed. Kuma thinks, was he protecting a fishman? Look, Straw Hat. And then you see Usopp falling down on, was it St. Rosewald? And the rest of the Straw Hats getting ready to fight. Kuma thinks, that's an act of high treason, the likes of which none have accomplished in many centuries. And we see the moment where Kuma confronted the Straw Hats, saying, wait, PX1, stopping the other pacifista who they were clashing with. And Usopp freaking out saying, what, another one? And Kuma thinks, Dragon, Eva, please forgive me for vanishing without a word. And he disappears Zoro, and as he disappears everyone one by one, Luffy watches in despair. Kizaru, Sentomaru, Rayleigh, they all look on, allowing it to happen. As Kuma thinks to himself, I will leave behind the mark of my existence in Bonnie and the future of this boy. And as Luffy wails in despair saying, I couldn't save any of them. But Kuma thinks to himself, that is not true. This is just the level of the new world. It is still too soon for the likes of your crew. Don't come here yet. One day in the future, you will be the man who saves the world. Dang. To think that that's what Kuma was thinking when he did all of that. Everybody was really wondering that. Like, what was going through Kuma's head when he was disappearing all of the Straw Hat? But he was betting on the future. Meanwhile, back on Egghead, Vegapunk is talking with Saint Saturn, as Vegapunk angrily says, a self-destruct switch? How afraid of Kuma are you anyway? Saturn says, you are the one who turned him into a terrifying human weapon. Vegapunk says, you're at the very top of the authority hierarchy. Saturn says, but if he goes out of control beyond the range of receiving commands, who will stop him and how? Don't argue with me, Vegapunk. You're just a lowly hired scientist. Vegapunk says, then in exchange for doing that, let me retain a little willpower for him. I'll just invent a neural pathway that can switch between mental states like dual personalities. If you'll just let me test it on. So make it so that he could just go into like robot mode when you need him to. But Saturn says, I gave you an order, Vegapunk. You will not leave him any free will. I too am a scientist. You cannot deceive me. Vegapunk says, but then Kuma and Bonnie, they'll never meet again. And I guess we see the day of when it was all supposed to go down. Let's face it, I mean, Kuma did plenty of things that was against the government in the long run. As we see Kuma on the table for the last process, Kuma says to Vegapunk, I'm just happy that you thought of me, Vegapunk. Vegapunk says, huh? You shouldn't have heard that. Kuma says, and who was it that gave me supersonic hearing? Jesus. And Vegapunk says, well, here we are, Kuma. This is the day I flipped the switch. It's been 2 long years, but I enjoyed them with you. Kuma laughs, saying, me too. As Vegapunk types away at the console, he says, your first mission seems like it'll involve fighting against the Whitebeard pirate. They've ordered a mass deployment of cloned soldiers. After that is done... Kuma says, after that is done, I'd like you to program a mission into me. Vegapunk says, you want to stand guard over the Straw Hat ship? Kuma says, I would like to protect their home until one of the crew returns to it, even though I won't be around to witness their growth. Vegapunk questions, what pipe dreams do you see in this boy? Kuma thinks of Luffy's wanted poster, now at 300 million, saying, something in his action shakes the very core of my being. Nika is only a legend, but I instilled into Bonnie the stories of a warrior who rides the rhythm of a liberation and brings smiles to all. If there is a hero who will bring a great transformation to the sea, I think it must be him. So it was more than doing it for himself. It was so that Bonnie could have something to believe in. Even if he only got so far, it wouldn't be Nika brought to reality. Almost to be like, look, I was right. He does exist, Bonnie. Vegapunk says, a revolutionary making a bet on a pirate. Quite the dark horse you've chosen, but that contradiction is proof of your humanity. Now time to provide me with my material for scientific research. we had a deal. He motions over to some kind of device, a containment device. He says, once you admit that, do the memories in your mind vanish? Kuma says, no. Is more like a copy, but it will vanish once touched. As Kuma expels his memories, Vegapunk types away at the keyboard, and he says, not to worry, I've built a system that will allow me to see inside without contact. Place it over there. This will be quick. It's a clean, clinical process. I'm a scientist. Kuma looks at the bubble and thinks and says, so that's my life. How much of a nuisance was I in the end? Vegapunk tells him, well, what is life but being a series of nuisances? Oh, isn't that the truth? And you see Kuma look through his life, from his birth, the smiling faces of his parents, to him running as a slave, and Eva smiling and calling out to him, as well as Ginny, to him being a pastor, meeting the revolutionaries, as well as meeting Dragon and Goyo Goyo and the others, as well as Ginny when he last saw her, him being a revolutionary, meeting Bonnie and her calling him daddy, and him being the warlord Kuma, and Vegapunk telling him she'll survive, and Kuma saying, I'm so glad, thank you, a man constantly on the run, jeez. And as Vegapunk struggles to pull the switch, tears stream out of his eyes, and he says, your death is a nuisance to every person who's ever known and loved you. Listen to me, Kuma, and listen good. You are a hero to Bonnie and to us all. And Kuma smiles, saying thank you. Say, Vegapunk. Vegapunk pulls the switch, saying yes, I already know. And as all the scientists, ironically enough, clasp their hands in prayer, and Sentomaru holds his hand over his heart, they all close their eyes in a moment of solace as Vegapunk falls to his knees crying, having killed a good man. And Kuma's last words, the last thoughts in his mind before his life came to an end, was thank you for saving Bonnie. If you should see Bonnie, would you pass on a message for me? Tell her I wish her a very happy 10th birthday. You see Bonnie in the paw room, having interacted with Kuma's memories, on her knees, crying. Time of recording is Christmas, and what Oda got me was tears. Oddly enough, my own. Oof, that was hard to get through. Oh man. You know, it's funny. So many times Oda has the characters listen to a story that we don't hear, and then we have the aftermath. Like Luffy and the others listening to the story of Odin, or with Bonnie crying at the end of going through Kuma's memories and stuff. And you have the characters going through these intense emotion and feeling some way towards the end. But the funny thing is, even now, I still always question, will I feel that same way? Or I sometimes dismiss it, like thinking, I might not feel that same way. But I always do. I don't know about you, but I always feel that same way when I hear these stories. Like, somehow it always gets these emotions out of me. And I'm a crybaby, I'll tell you that much. I am a crybaby. But man, because even when you know someone's already gone, you'd think maybe it wouldn't impact you so much. But just knowing how good of a person he was, and by no means was Kuma perfect, because honestly, he made plenty of mistakes. He had his own shortcomings. He was too in his head. He should have been with Bonnie. He should have been with Ginny. But he let his own fears and reservations rule his life. But they were understandable. He always tried his damnedest to do the right thing. But he never went forward with arrogance. He never went forward thinking everything I've done is so great and this and that. It's just like, no. He acknowledged, I've made mistakes, that he could have done things better, and he worried that maybe I just made things worse, which is understandable. There are some ways I relate to Kuma, and some ways I wish I could be as much of an amazing person as Kuma, because he only ever acted out of love. A pacifist running through a world of chaos, fighting the good fight as best he could. Ah, man. Oof. The funny thing is, there's so many people I know who read the manga and are constantly like, Oda, hurry it up. You know, get to this, get to that, get to this. I'm always like, no. Oda, take your damn time. No matter what, take your time. Because when Oda does something for the hell of it, or has fun with something, or feels like he needs to spend time on something, there's so many times when those are the most important important moment. We could have skimmed through the entirety of Kuma's backstory, but we didn't. Some things we skimmed through, and some things we lingered on. And man, the backstory as a whole, Oda cooked on this one, and it was deliciously salty like pear. And I can kind of understand why Bonnie was able to kind of be a little bit more cheerful after the fact, able to kind of move forward, because at the very least she knew of everything her dad had done for her mother had done for her, the people around her had done for her, that she was loved. So with all that, Bonnie can't die. She can never die. If Bonnie dies, I will be incredibly pissed, because you do not have Ginny and Kuma do what they did and still have her die. But even installing a self-destruct switch, oof, that's Chekhov's gun right there. Introducing that, it's like, okay, I'm thinking that Egghead is gonna get exploded. It might even be why Kuma's, body is so desperate to get to a certain location. He's looking to go out with a bang, and I hope it's right in Saturn's face. Fingers crossed. Now let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Gee. How did you feel about the end of Kuma and revisiting basically Bonnie and Luffy's pirating journey happening side by side? This is the only characters we've solidly gotten to see through the ages is Bonnie. Like, what was going on up until they got to Sabaody. We didn't get that with Law, Kid, Beige. Nah, we skimmed over so much of that. I mean, you might say, oh, well, Law got that light novel. Yeah, it's a light novel. You think people don't often check out the manga? Less people check out the light novel. Shoot, I'm still hoping they adapt the Ace light novel into animation so more people will actually be able to experience the story. Because the funny thing about Ace is, man, Ace is so much more interesting after he died. Although anime watchers had like a bonus because he spent so much more time in Alabasta, and Ace was cool in Alabasta. Like, you thought he was cool before, man, Ace is one cool ass mofo. Although I really do have to wonder, because there's some who hope that Bonnie joins the Straw Hats, but I don't know. Like, it's another one of those things where I could see Bonnie being allied, but a Straw Hat? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too burned from stuff like Carrot not joining and Yamato not joining, but I don't know. I ain't seeing it. But again, let me know your thoughts on this chapter in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye.